Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here. We are not live from Half Coast Studios today. Matt, our producer, is out sick, so doing this from my home office. But I want to thank Half Coast for everything that they do each and every single week in getting this podcast up and running. If you're looking to start your podcast or take your current one to the next level, definitely come check out what they have going on. Contact them today for a free consultation. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me, and this way we can get this incredible content out to more people. Today, we have another great episode lined up for you. He and I have been connected online for a while. We've chatted back and forth, supported each other, and aligned on a lot of the same things when it comes to both business and personal growth. He reached out last month sharing some things that he believes would provide some value to the audience, and I couldn't agree more. So I'm very excited to have him on here today. My guest today is Billy Cline. He is the owner of DFW Door Repair. Billy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
Did I pronounce your last name right? I should have asked that.
Yeah, it's Billy Cline.
Okay, perfect. I was putting the notes together and I'm like, man, I should have asked that. So that was a good reminder. But man, I'm excited to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah, so we like to compare our entrepreneurs that we bring on as guests to that of the beer brewing process, thus the name Entrepreneur. So we like to get started with a little bit of history about you. So if you can give the audience a little background on who you are, what you do, where you're located, and how you got to this point.
Yeah, so we're in Dallas, Texas. I started this business, probably back in 2007, 2008. I've always kind of been an entrepreneur. I started, I don't know that I ever had a W-2 job outside of high school. You know, I worked at Walmart for a little bit in high school. Done a little bit of everything. I worked as a logger for a while right out of high school. That was an interesting job. It was a lot of hard work. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. My dad and my granddad were always in the basically the home service remodeling space. So I grew up doing a lot of those projects with them, learning a lot from them. Like a lot of young men working with their family, probably didn't learn as much as I should have. You know, we always know a lot. The older I get, the smarter my dad was. So, yeah. You know, there's a lot of lessons that have to be learned and relearned, you know, as we get older, and especially in business. I wandered around in the wilderness as an entrepreneur for a long time, just, you know, thought that was the way it was. You know, you just go out and you find jobs and you try and get money, and you just perpetuate that. And it wasn't until probably 2020, late 2020, early 2021, when I realized this is nothing that I was doing was anything that I would want to grow a business on top of. It was mass chaos. You know, we were growing really fast, you know, selling a lot, wasn't sure if we were making any money. You know, we were just, you know, perpetuating the cash flow machine, and never had anything to show for it. And I just, you know, I put a hard stop. I'm like, we're going to grow this business. We got to figure it out now before we, you know, add all this new revenue and new growth on top, and we still don't know if we're making money. So I started reaching out to influential people in the home service space, looking for help, looking for guidance. And it's amazing the level and type of people that will help and say yes if you just ask. You know, they want to see people succeed and thrive, and you just have to reach out and ask. So I reached out to some people who I thought might be very helpful, and they pointed me in the right direction and got us on the right programs, gave us some good help, and we've more than doubled this year from last year. Last year was more than double from the year before. And this year seems a whole lot easier than last year did, just because we started putting systems and processes in place and learning a lot of the things that would have been nice to know, you know, 5 years ago. We've wasted a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense. And so did you guys, it sounds like you might've been doing a bunch of different projects. Did you guys just niche down or get super clear on what you guys wanted to do, or do you guys still do a little bit of everything?
No, so we really just focus on the residential replacement entry door space. So like if it's your home, if you decided you wanted a new front door, or your front door was drafty or leaking or wasn't operating well, you give us a call. We come out and evaluate it, give you a price. If you want to do it, we'll fix it, or give you a price to replace it. And front doors, back doors, anything that has hinges, basically.
Sure.
So we decided that in our market anyway, we couldn't keep up with the calls. We were running pretty lean in our marketing versus revenue. So I always felt like there was a lot of meat on the bone. So when we decided to start scaling, that was always my biggest concern was, can we get enough calls to turn this into something? And, the calls kept coming. We kept adding people, adding trucks. Right now we're up to 4 trucks. We'll probably add 2 more this year. But the call volume hasn't been a problem. The type of jobs that we're looking for continue to come in. So we're going to keep throwing gasoline on the fire until we hit a peak.
Yeah, love that. Always throw the gasoline on the fire when you got something good. Was there a particular event or instance? Because I work obviously with a lot of contractors, and I think contractors specifically, a lot of times they wait until it's too late in order to seek that help that you're talking about, even though that help might be right in front of them. So was there something that was just like, man, I got to make this change, that led to where you guys made a pretty big pivot in the business?
Yeah, for sure. Really, I can trace it back to getting interested in podcasts. What most people, especially young people, I'm going to kind of pigeonhole everybody here. We have the power of the world in the palm of our hand now, and I'd never, I grew up in the woods of Arkansas. I didn't know what a podcast was. I didn't get an iPhone until 2011, but I discovered the podcast app on my iPhone, probably 7 years ago, 7 years ago. And I just started listening to things that were helpful. I mean, you can only hear the Beatles' Let It Be so many times when you're driving around in your car,
Yeah.
So I quit listening to the radio. I don't watch a whole lot of television. I'm always trying to educate myself. I mean, your podcast, there's 100 podcasts that are business, small business, home service oriented, and they all have great guests, great content, and it always leads to the next thing. You hear about a book or another podcast or another person that's on that podcast that has help in an area that you really could use some help in. So you start digging there and start listening to their content. And it's really, I call it an accidental MBA. I'm driving in my car 45 minutes each way to work and home every day. So I probably listened to 12 books this year. I try and do one a month.
Yeah.
Some books I try and listen to every year. The quintessential book that everyone listens to. Michael Gerber. What's the name of the book that
it's not E-Myth, is it?
The E-Myth, yes. Sorry,
okay.
I went blank there. The E-Myth, there's several books like that are always worth listening to more than once, because you're always in your entrepreneurial journey, you're always looking for something, and you may have find it, but once you find it and plug that hole, there's something else that you need to start looking for, and you may not catch it the first or second time you listen to something like that. So if you just always looking, always learning, but podcast really is what started to open my eyes that I always thought just because I was making a lot of money and we were doing a lot that I had made it, but I just realized how dumb I was and how much that I didn't know. And it's really amazing just what podcasts and even YouTube, like I have the YouTube premium, and there's a lot of podcasts that I watch on YouTube, and there's just so much good content out there. There's really no excuse for not knowing something anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I've only been listening to podcasts and reading books now for a little over 2 years, but it's absolutely changed the game. And it sounds like you went on a self-development and improvement journey that was more on that personal level, but it really obviously coincides with the business, where you're like, man, I have this massive opportunity to create this business that is more systemized, that is more automated, and the business isn't running you, right? And that's where a lot of us, I mean, I've been there before myself, where it's like, okay, I can't even take a day off work because if I do, everything's going to start crumbling. And that's the worst feeling in the world. So I completely understand where you're coming from there.
Yep. It's it can be a helpless feeling, especially like if you try and take the day off and go do something with your family, or you're nowhere near anywhere you can help and no one else can answer that question or fix that problem but you. And you're like, what do I do? So it basically made me really realize and understand that as a leader, I was naked, I mean,
Yeah.
I was totally exposed. I had no backup plan. I had no, my business was worth me, and what I could earn. And as I've developed my business and tried to develop new leaders in my company, we've taken an approach to how do we make this business have more value in the instance that someone wants to buy it or merge or suck us up or whatever. And whether we do any of that or not, that's kind of the approach we took when we started kind of putting all the systems and processes together, because otherwise we've got a decent job and that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that. The next thing we like to kind of get into is talking about beer ingredients. So as far as ingredients go that have made you successful in your journey thus far, what are the top 3 things that have gotten you where you're at today?
Well, I want to go back and say podcasts again, just learning, having a thirst for the knowledge of things that I even sometimes didn't realize I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And reaching out to people, just that the podcasts are the first one. And what's really cool is I've yet to have anybody just ghost me or shut me down and say they didn't want to help. Doesn't matter how big they are. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Ken Goodrich. He owns Gettle Heat and Air. His story was one of the first ones I heard on a podcast about how, he came up, how his whole business came about, how the IRS, was knocking on his door and all the, all the problems they were having. And I really was able to connect to his story and resonate. And I went home and looked him up on LinkedIn, and I sent him, I'd never heard of this guy before that day. And I sent him a message on LinkedIn, and he, within 15 minutes, messaged me back on LinkedIn, his cell phone number, and said, reach out if you need help with anything. And Ken and I have actually become friends since then. But I've got dozens of instances like that, from, people you've never heard of that have a lot of helpful information to almost household names, especially in the home services space. So reaching out and asking for help is really one of my superpowers and secret weapons. Everybody's happy to help. And the third one is leadership and delegation. Learning to recognize that as we grow, we're going to need leaders, because we're going to need to bring new people in. So developing leaders from within and creating job descriptions and duties for those in an org chart, has really made a huge difference in our business, the trajectory of our business, the opportunities to grow. When opportunities come up, now we have leaders, people in our business that can handle that without it having to come to my desk and make all the decisions. So that's been really instrumental as well.
Yeah, that's the best feeling, when problems don't even get to you. And the next thing you know, they're getting solved and they're getting taken care of.
You hear about it in a meeting, or monthly meeting. Hey, oh, this happened. Oh, how'd y'all take care of it? Okay, awesome. What do y'all need?
Yeah, you're like, all right, wow, that's something that used to derail my day. And so it's really cool. I love what you talk about as far as reaching out and asking for help, because I think it's a topic of conversation that a lot of entrepreneurs are like, well, I got to pay for people's time. And obviously everybody's got their time, but you would be surprised. There are so many different people that even I've helped out with, when they just reach out and ask a question. Something as simple as, hey, where would you go to learn about X, Y, and Z? It has nothing to do with marketing, nothing to do with any of this stuff. And I'm always, if someone's going to take the initiative, I'm always going to at least respond to them. And you would find most people are going to do that. As you mentioned, is that people aren't just going to ghost you or leave you hanging or doing any of that stuff.
For sure.
Why do you believe that most people just don't ask for help, or they don't seek that? Why do you believe that?
they don't know what questions to ask. They don't know what they don't know. And this is where I have a passion for helping people out, because when I started this journey, I didn't know where to start. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to have a heat and air company or a plumbing company, there's 100, there's 100 companies out there that'll help you with best practices and free paperwork and platforms and patterns, how to build your company. A company like mine, door repair, there's not very many door repair or door sales companies out there. So I didn't know where to go and find a template. There's no template. So I didn't know the right questions to ask. So I just started inserting myself in these other circles, like Ken Goodrich with the heat and air. Tommy Mello has helped me. I mean, Tommy is a great mentor of mine and he has helped me a ton, but he does garage doors, but they all have aspects of their business that you can apply to really any business. I mean, business is business, sales is sales, fulfillment is fulfillment. The widget that we do doesn't really matter. It's the business principles that you adhere to, that you can figure out the minutia. It's not that big a deal. Yeah. So just figuring out the right questions to ask and the right people to ask those questions to, even if it's just basically asking for directions. When you reach out to someone like that, you're basically just asking for directions. Don't take an hour of their time asking them how to balance your P&L, but say, if you have a specific question about your P&L, hey man, my cost of goods sold was super high this month, or my gross profit was way off. Maybe they can point you in the right direction, or say, hey, call this guy. It'll cost you $100 an hour or whatever, but he'll help you out. But they always have something helpful to give. And just getting, and also one more thing I want to add: get a new circle of friends. Insert yourself into what you want to become. Don't keep hanging out with I mean, you can, your friends that just want to play Call of Duty all night long. That's not going to get you anywhere. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, insert yourself into networking events, go to trade shows. All these things are where these people hang out, and create a circle. If you can't insert yourself into one, create your own with these people, and they're all happy to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's extremely powerful. Appreciate your insights there. So the next thing we'd like to talk about is just the process as a whole. Obviously, you've been doing this for a while. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. It took you some time to really understand what you needed to be doing in terms of working on the business versus in the business. So talk to us about some of the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows throughout your journey thus far.
Well, let's start with the lows, because there's plenty of those. Honestly, going back, you just don't know what you don't know. And I can't remember how many times to where there would always be just enough money at the end of the week to pay everything, and there was nothing left, or you would be short. And, I can't tell you how many times I personally put money into the business to make payroll or whatever, pay the insurance, whatever it was. And they say you're not a real entrepreneur until you've written a personal check to make the payroll. So I don't know if that's true, but it is in my case.
Yeah. Done that a few times myself.
Yeah, for sure. And it's no way to run a railroad, so to speak. You have to grow through that. You have to evolve away from that. And a lot of times the fear of not knowing how to do it, or the pride of not knowing, not being scared to ask the questions, or to ask someone for help, your pride may get in the way. You have to set all that aside and just go for it. And for a long time, that what kept me in my low spot was my pride, thinking that I knew what I was doing, and just never having enough money. And no matter how much I charged, no matter how many, tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars that we sold that month or whatever, it was never enough money. And until we went in and got a hold of our spending and our P&L and started running our business off the P&L instead of out of our checking account, it never changed. But I will say, one of the hardest things as a business owner that you will ever do, especially a young business owner, is to transition from running your business from your checking account So running off of a P&L on a monthly and quarterly basis, it's literally probably easier to get off of meth than cash flow. And
I had to do that this year. So
it's
I'm
super
right there with
hard.
you.
And but if you want to grow and if you want to be successful and if you want to have money at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the week, you have to do that. If you want to pay yourself, you have to do that. And you have to be able to work off of your P&L and get your percentages right, your gross profit. You know, that's where you find out if you're wasting your time or not. You know, I mean, you can sit at home and watch Oprah and lose less money than going to work by not making any money. At least you're not paying to go to work, you know? So just the financial issues early on were pretty low, you know, missed a lot of opportunities, you know, chased a lot of ghosts. And now, you know, some of the highs are, you know, pretty much every week, every month, we're hitting new sales records, you know, really one of the things I'm most proud of is things aren't just always on fire. You know, I was talking to my team this morning and we were talking about our 12 and 18 month, you know, outlook down the road. Well, we're going to start doing things now that we're not going to see any, you know, results from for 12 to 18 months. We're going to start planting seeds instead of pulling weeds, you know, because we spent the last 18 months pulling weeds and now everything looks nice. So we're going to start planting seeds, you know, so things will start to grow. And the cool thing is we're not going to see anything for the most part from some of this, from branding and some of these marketing efforts down the road. But that's really a high point for me because I'm not just, you know, having to come in every day and piss on fires, you know, and it really is liberating.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I love how you talk about planting those seeds versus pulling the weeds. 'Cause I think everybody for the most part has to learn the lesson of being reactive versus proactive before they start being proactive in everything that they do.
It really changes the way you think about things, and it takes away a whole layer of stress when you're proactive instead of reactive, because your whole day you spend it will turn you old quick. That's why presidents like Barack Obama went in dark black hair, and 8 years later this guy's white as a ghost. You know, I mean, it's just being reactive is such a drain on your health and your body, and it takes such a toll that it'll turn you into an old person pretty quick.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just hired a speaking coach, so I spoke at like 10 events this past year, and I never spoke at events before. And then I started to get referrals for other events and things like that. And the most I'd ever been paid was $500 to speak for 45 minutes. I hired this speaking coach and we're like 2 or 3 sessions in, but I'm like, I want to be a better speaker. I want to invest in learning how to do it. And all of a sudden I get this random message from somebody that's thrown an event in 2023. And the CEO is like, hey, I'm having my assistant reach out to you because we want you to be one of our keynotes and lead 2 sessions. I hop on the call yesterday. They're like, we want to pay you $2,500.
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, you know, it obviously feels really cool, but like, it's one of those things where if I didn't manifest that to the world and I didn't start planting those seeds of speaking and doing it for free for the entire year and building that up, that stuff just doesn't happen, right? So I believe everything happens for a reason. There is no luck aspect in stuff.
I could talk about that for a long time. It would be a whole other episode, you know, but just putting yourself out there and talking about what you're you know, passionate about and have a lot of knowledge in. You know, a lot of people wander around for a long time not realizing, you know, that if you just find something that you love to do and just be passionate about it and do it every day, the bounty comes when you don't expect it. You're not looking for it. You're doing it because you love it. The money just shows up because you're helping people or doing things that you love that helps other people. And, you know, the rewards just show up one day. You know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it definitely comes back full circle. So one of the last things we'll talk about, 2 more questions for you. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned that you would share with someone to save years worth of mistakes along their entrepreneurial journey?
Get your books in order. You know, I thought for so many years that my accountant was just there to do my taxes at the end of the year and to help me, you know, scramble around and find something to spend money on or find some write-offs at the end of the year. And that really should be the least of what you use your accountant for and your bookkeeping. You have to have your financials are I cannot believe how long I wandered around. Not even, I honestly, I never even felt that they were important until last year. And the more that I've learned, the more that I realized that it's the most important thing. The rest of it, everything else that you do in business has to become from your financials. So if your financials aren't right, if you're not charging enough, if you're not even making a profit, that's where you have to start. You have to figure out what your billable hours are worth and what you're charging now, and if you're making a profit. So the most important thing to me, in my opinion, is that's one of the cornerstones of business, is having a financial knowledge and being able to build your business off of that. It's not the only cornerstone, but it's one of the most important.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one that I think a lot of people take a look at sales or marketing or whatever it is, right? And they're like, that's going to be the growth of my business and the stability of my business. It's like, if you don't have the foundational stuff in place, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to struggle. So
Correct.
Definitely believe that. So the last thing that we'll talk about here is we'd like to talk about the distribution of the beer brewing process, taking the beer to market and selling it. So talk to us about what's next for you in 2023 and the business and some exciting things that you guys have that you're working on.
Yeah, so we're really spent this whole year, for the most part, working on our systems and processes, putting SOPs in place, just kind of refining our plugging a lot of holes and figuring out where we still had some holes in our game. So we could grow off of that. We've still got a lot of capacity with the team that we have. So we're going to focus this year. We're going to double down on continuing to refine our process. Everything that I do, that I'm a pretty quick implementer. When I hear something or learn something that I feel like is going to help, I'm really quick to implement it. I used to be the world's worst about waiting until try and get everything perfect to implement something. But now we call it the framework. We put a framework in place. We make it work. We make it pay. It's not going to be at its best or its most efficient, but we're going to get it in place and we're going to make it work and make it pay. Now we're going to spend time orbiting around all these frameworks that we have in place, optimizing, maximizing, making things more efficient, making sure, we're going to go back and put some lipstick on some of this stuff and clean it up. We're going to spend the year doing that. We feel like we still have a lot of capacity and growth that we can do this year. I think that we're probably going to double again without adding a lot of pieces, maybe add one more truck. So not being sure what the 2023 is going to bring, as the economy is ever changing and a lot of the money's drying up and the easy sells are kind of going away. We're going to either maintain where we're at or we're going to grow, but we're okay no matter what happens there. So we're just going to focus on optimization, becoming efficient, and just making it look as easy as possible and making things, work really smooth with me or without me or anyone else here for that matter. Any leadership that's here, we really want to make it to where if they want to take a week off, they can.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I'm excited to continue to watch your guys' growth. Love what you have planning for 2023 and beyond. Billy, really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today. Where can people find out more about your company, your social links, websites, things like that?
Yeah, they can look me up on Facebook, obviously. Just look me up, Billy Cline. We also have our Facebook page for our business, DFW Door Repair. Our business website is dfwdoorrepair.com. I'm very happy, very passionate about helping people if they reach out. There's a lot of things I still don't know, but there's a whole lot of mud that I've tread through, to get from, 2 years ago to where I'm at, that a lot of the things that I've gone through that will help a lot of people that are early in their journey. And that's what I'm passionate about, is helping people who are early in their journey, because it's scary and you just don't know where to start. A lot of times it's overwhelming. There's so many things that you need to do, so many things that you're looking at that you just don't know where to start. So if anyone is looking for any help or advice or has questions or needs directions, reach out to me on Facebook, Billy Cline, Cline. I'm in a lot of the trade groups. Pretty easy to find.
Awesome. We'll put that all
They
in
can
the
also
show
send me an email as well if they want. My email
Yeah.
is billy@dfwdoorrepair.com.
Awesome. We'll put that all in the show notes. Billy, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks for having me on today. It was awesome.
And I want to thank you again to the audience for tuning in to today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share our content. Leaving a 5-star review goes a long way. And thank you again to Half Coast Studios for everything that you do each and every single week. If you're here in St. Louis and looking to start your own podcast or take your current one to the next level, come check out what they have going on. We'll see you all next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's